And this is what her grave looks like. It's very well, not very well taken care of. And we got to visit it. I always said if I ever got to visit her, I was going to read her a poem that I had found. So I did that. I took her some flowers and put on her grave. And I'm sure the guy that owns it didn't appreciate that, but she is my kinfolks.
Now, are you allowed to go visit her grave now?
I would be because I'm family.
But somebody like me couldn't.
With permission, you could, but he doesn't. Someone on four-wheelers went in there and tore down some of these fences. These cows got out, and I don't know what all, but nowhere in this blue area is where the cemetery is. This is Lapland Road and Pine Ridge Road and Liberty Road and all that. But we don't have a picture of Leah Smock. But we do have this picture. This is my great-granddaughter, and she's now 16 years old. This is my granddaughter. This is my daughter. This is me. My mama, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, my great-great-great-grandmother. And that is Leah Smock's mother. This is her mother and father. Leah was born in Washington County, Virginia in 1818. Her father came from New Jersey. Her mother was born in Pennsylvania. And her mother was a healer. She knew which herbs and spices and all that to use. She could make poultices really good, that would draw the infection out and all that.
And would you say your relation to Miss Smock was?
She is my great-great-grand aunt.
Okay.
She's my great-great-grandmother's sister. So, whatever.
So do you think you got any of her innate abilities?
No. No, I just make messes.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about it because, that new herbal book that they keep advertising on Facebook and all that. I'm thinking of ordering that and seeing, because it's supposed to have old-timey recipes in it of healing stuff, And, the medicine we take nowadays doesn't always work. And
Well, that part's true.
and it sometimes does more damage than it does good. So, but anyway, Leah was learning from her mother about how to take care of people, how to what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyway, to tell them what she thought would help them, and so she was learning a lot of that from her mother. But she also had a friend, a Native American friend named Indian Joe. Indian Joe was teaching her to read the weather signs. And I don't know if you've ever noticed weather signs, watching the clouds and watching the animals and watching the trees. And, they'll tell you a lot of things. I know when I would go visit my grandmother, and we would be outside, and she would be sitting on the front porch. She had a big, wide porch and had swings on each end. And I would be out playing in the yard, little bitty thing, And she'd say, "You better get in here, it's going to rain." Well, I was, like I said, little bitty, but I could see the sun shining, see the blue sky, so I thought, well, it's not going to rain. So anyway, I keep on playing. Well, pretty soon I'd have to run for the porch because it was pouring down rain. And so when I got bigger, I asked Granny, I said, how did you know it was going to rain? And she said, well, next time you're here that it's going to rain, I'll show you. So the next time I was there, we were out there, and she said, you wanted to know how I knew it was going to rain? She said, well, look at that, look at those trees across the road. And I said, mm-hmm. And I said, she said, they're telling me stuff. And I said, I don't hear them, you know, because I was just a kid. And she said, look at their leaves. And I said, okay. And she said, what are they doing? And I said, they're turning upside down. And she said, that's right. And it's been scientifically proven that those will turn, certain trees do turn their leaves upside down when it's going to rain, because their veins are on the bottom and they catch more moisture that way. But it's really, really true. And you'd be surprised at the number of people that when I mention it, oh yeah, I forgot that. So anyway, that was one thing that my grandmother, I guess, this lady, that was one thing that she was able to get from Leah maybe. But anyway, Leah was learning to watch weather signs. She was learning the healing signs and healing properties and all that. And there was a lady that had a little baby that was real, real sick. And Leah wanted to hold it, to examine it, thinking maybe, you know, she could understand what was happening and you know, be able to do something to help it. And the mother said, no, I don't want you touching her. And Leah said, you'll be sorry, because she thought she could help it. And that night the baby died. So everybody said Leah had put a curse on it, that she was a witch.
So bad circumstances.
Uh-huh. And just things like that. And then after that, anything that went wrong, Leah got blamed. If she was anywhere near the vicinity of something happening, like a barn fire or the crops that, you know, that didn't produce or something, if she was seen walking through there, it was her fault. She had put a curse on it. So that was how she got the title of being a witch. And all she was just a young lady, very intelligent, very pretty. So there could have been some jealousy there too. But then she was just kind of ostracized in the community, and she didn't have too many friends. She had a few, and so she was just her parents. Her dad was a cooper. He built barrels, and so his barrels were always, you know, really good, and she was going to help a neighbor with his barrels. She was going to help him, and he told her to get away. And that night, his barrels all fell apart after he'd worked on them all day. So, you know, so Leah got the blame, even though it could have been he was drunk and didn't.
So her father blamed her.
No, not her father, but everybody else.
Oh, everybody else. Okay.
And anyway, she got the blame for a lot of things that happened that were just circumstances and ignorance. But, you know, like I said, she had Indian friends, so she did the planting of her garden and stuff and helping her father, and she followed the Indians' way, you know, and the Indians weren't stupid like, you know, they're portrayed on TV. They were very brilliant about a lot of things, like putting the fish in the you know, when they were planting the corn and stuff to fertilize the ground. That was
Okay.
long before fertilizer came out, and
Okay.
stuff like that. And so that's what she did with her dad's garden. She helped him, and so they had a big bumper crop, you know, a lot better than some of the neighbors. And the neighbors, you know, they didn't follow any of that air whatever, you know, they didn't follow any of the Indian ways. So anyway, she tried, you know, she tried to explain things, but people wouldn't listen to her because she'd already got the reputation that she was a witch, and you know nobody wanted to be around her, nobody believed her. So one day her parents had gone into town to trade their barrels and to get, you know, something that they couldn't raise. And while they were gone, some of the neighbors got together and they came to where Leah was minding the smokehouse, and they tied her up and put her in the smokehouse.
Oh.
And set the smokehouse on fire from the outside. And people say that you could see her scream, or you could hear her screams all over the valley, but nobody came to help her because everyone was afraid of her. Everyone thought she was a witch. But she, like I said, she was only 22 years old and very, very pretty, very intelligent, but you wonder what she could have become if she'd have been, you know, been allowed to live. She might have, you know, come up with some kind of cure for something, you know, that was really rampant at that time. Of course, superstition was bad in 1840, so superstition and everything else together, and maybe some jealousy. And
So how did they kill her? You said they smoked her? They burned her?
They put her in the smokehouse and set it on fire.
And this is how she became the first witch burned in Kentucky?
Mm-hmm. The last one.
The last one?
Well, the last one we know about, so. Anyway.
So what is your personal take on the legacy that you have?
I think she was, like I said, just a very intelligent person. She probably ahead of her time, and she paid attention to what was going on around her.
Seems like you're kind of emotional about the story.
Yeah.
So for your ancestor, how did it affect you growing up? Sounds like your grandmother teaching you the weather signs and stuff like that.
Well, nobody talked about her. That was it. You know, I never learned very much about her until I started doing research after I got married, because I asked Granny about it, and she said, you know, people didn't talk about her much. Now, she remembers them talking about John, the father, because they lived down close to where I live now. But they moved after Leah was killed. They lived at Battletown then, but then they moved down to Wolf Creek. But yeah, it's a sad story to, like, you think of, you know, a wasted life of, I mean, she was so intelligent, and you just wonder what, you know, she might have been able to accomplish in this world.
She could have found a cure for, I guess, whatever cancer was back in those days, and like you said, and maybe a plethora of other
Yep.
illnesses.
And you know, today more people are going with the natural healing, the using the herbs, and you know, instead of so much medicine.
Pause it here, please.
Well, here, this is Augusta. Where's Augusta? That lady after she grew up. But this is her when she was young, and she's supposed to be the spitting image of Leah. In other words, she looked like Leah. So that's what Leah looked like when she was young. But we don't have any pictures of her afterward. And Leah has a brother and a sister.
And I'm assuming they have descendants as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, because you're here.
Yeah, I'm descended through her sister. This one, my great grandmother. 2 greats. She's 3 greats. That's what I say about Leah. She's 3 greats and a grand, because she's my grandmother's daughter. So
How does the legacy make you feel? Like, as a person, how does it make you feel? Like, are you proud, or you kind of, do you hide the fact, or like, how do you go about when somebody brings it up, I guess?
oh, when somebody brings up Leah, and when they mention the witch, I say she was not a witch. I do not believe she was a witch.
So how does it make you feel personally about knowing that you're related to her?
Proud.
Proud?
Because I believe she was doing a I guess a satisfying job. This is a poem that I read to her.
Go ahead and read that to us.
It says, "Dear ancestor," and the author's unknown, "your tombstone stands among the rest, neglected and alone. The name and date are chiseled out of polished marble stone. It reaches out to all who care. It is too late to mourn. You did not know that I exist. You died and I was born. Yet each of us are cells of you, in flesh, in blood, in bone. Our blood contrasts and beats a pulse entirely not our own. Dear ancestor, the place you filled 100 years ago spreads out among the ones you left who would have loved you so. I wonder if you lived and loved. I wonder if you knew that someday I would find this spot and come to visit you."
Right. So if Leah was right here in front of you, and you had one thing that you could say to her, what would it be?
Sorry she was misunderstood. Can't understand, people that are so evil that they thought they had the right to kill her.